C'est le moment de passer aux questions-réponses avec les réalisateurs. Oui. Est-ce qu'il est ouvert? Ben c'est ça, je m'entends même pas. Ah, vous m'entendez? Ah ben oui, voilà. Alors, we're gonna go. We're gonna have the Q&A session right now with the directors. This is the moment we've been expecting since the beginning. Alors, it's my pleasure to call Isabelle Depelteau et Don Shannon, ladies and gentlemen. So we also have a mic here. So anybody who wants to ask questions, I mean, we can try to accommodate.
Merci d'abord d'être venu en grand nombre. On est bien content que vous soyez là. Alors, est-ce que vous avez des questions? Do you have any questions?
Yes. Oh, yes. So since the film was finished, how long ago? 1 year ago?
Correct, yeah.
So have things improved since that day, or things are
in Haiti?
up and down? Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's continued work that's being done. JP's work is continuing. JPHRO is continuing. World Vision is continuing. All of these organizations are still continuing to invest in Haiti.
Because there's a lot of corruption in Haiti. Doesn't that hinder progress?
There's a lot of corruption in Canada as well.
Hallelujah!
Just want to say that we have a vision here that is one-sided. When you go to Haiti, of course, there's difficulties, there's challenges.
So it's not more apparent than Canada.
I don't think. Well, okay. You know what? I don't really want to comment on the corruption. I'd like to comment on the country, the potential of the Haitian people.
Right.
I was there 35 hours after the earthquake. I flew down to Haiti with Dave Toyson that you saw in the film. And that's how this film got started. I had been to Haiti many times before. But when I landed in Haiti 36 hours after the quake, and I shared this with someone before the film, what I noticed was that, it was shocking for me to see so many people dead on the street and so many people injured and so much destruction. One thing I noticed was after 4 or 5 days, I thought, my God, people are going to come and ransack whatever's left. There's going to be violence. But you know what I saw? For like days and days and days was this incredible dignity and peace and strength of character. And I was so amazed by the Haitian people and their capacity to withstand that amount of violence and destruction, and to hold together and to lift their head high and to say, you know what? We've been through a lot. We're going to get through this one. And I have never seen such. And my thought was, if this happened in Montreal, I'm not sure we would see that. So we have to be very careful when we look from our eyes from the north to the south or to the people in developing countries.
Are there still opportunities to help if one were inclined to go down there and help out?
Well, there's always, if you're looking for work, there's always people they're always hiring at JPHRO or at World Vision or at, there's many organizations down there that hire people that have capacities.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Any more questions?
Merci beaucoup. Très beau film. Touchant
Merci.
Beaucoup par moment. On n'était pas là, nous. I'd like to know, how's the Jack Mill tourism industry coming out? This project is a really good project.
It's a really smart idea. I think it's also it's a long-term project. the earthquake shattered Port-au-Prince, 3 million inhabitants roughly out of 10 in Haiti. The infrastructural damage in Port-au-Prince certainly got, a tremendous amount of attention, and Jacmel had a lot of destruction too, but Jacmel is smaller. So it's an outlying area. But of course, you can see from some of the images in the film that it has huge potential. It is, it's really the diamond in the rough in many ways. It's gorgeous. And the initiative by Michael Capone, who's in the film, and others, because of course there are others who have invested and who have built up. Honeywell has built a school there. There are other things that have happened in the Jacmel area that are quite wonderful. And a lot of people who have traveled to Haiti and who have gone beyond just the Port-au-Prince area often cite Jacmel as like one of those places you have to go. Haitians love to go there themselves, so it gives you some indication. But to answer your question, it's going slow. It's going slow. I think that Michael is right in saying that tourism is the way forward. This year, in January, Air Transat, who I guess are almost in this building, they relaunched the tourism side of their industry, and they have regular flights going to Haiti, and there are specific tours that are organized and stuff. So there's the beginning of a tourism industry that once upon a time, 25 years ago, was flourishing. Okay. So I believe that it's coming back. And I think that if you're thinking about a really, really cool place to go to travel, it's safe. I felt safe when I was there, and I would say that you would have a great time. And I think that Jacmel is definitely something that you need to go and visit. There's also some great places further north.
Thank you.
What is the rainy season?
There's two. The one it starts in what month?
June, May, June.
Well, there's one in May, June, and there's another one in is it in February? Anyway, but there's a big rain and there's a small rain. I always forget which the two there are, but there's two periods of about a month or two where you're gonna get wet.
Okay, we have another question here.
Yes.
Good evening. I was very impressed with the film and with the people who you interviewed and spoke with and the projects they're working on. But I was struck by the absence of local leaders and any focus on governance, and I just wonder why you chose that tack.
Yeah. I appreciate that question. When we presented this film the very first time, we presented it in the Bahamas, at the Bahamas Film Festival. And it's a question that comes up a couple of times. How come you're not showing more of Haitians helping Haitians? And a film is a blank slate before you start. This film began when Isabelle, who's my film partner, my wife, got on a plane, went to Haiti under the auspices of work she was doing with World Vision, and I started to see a film take shape, feeling helpless back in Montreal. So every film has a starting point, which is somebody's point of view. I had not been to Haiti. I'm a white guy with no knowledge of really in depth of what Haiti has to deal with at that particular time. And so the film that we saw taking shape was largely centered on what was the disconnect between what we were seeing in the media and what was coming out of the what I was learning from Isabelle in terms of what was actually going on the ground, and from other organizations that I had been in touch with as we started to do the research. And so, we had to choose our focus. When we were telling the story, like for instance, the investment conference that you may notice that we were at, there was a tremendous amount of energy. But if you want to talk about governance and if you want to put things in the context, you had President Martelly, who had just been elected. It was very, very shaky ground on which he was walking. The opposition party was thwarting him at every turn, but he managed to hold on to power, and everyone was wondering, wow, is this rapper really going to run the country?
Yeah, and then there was no prime minister for a long time. So, in terms of the governance of the country, in the context of when this film was made, it was a bit difficult. But I don't want to cut you off there, but I just have one point to make. We knew that our audience was going to be North American also, mostly North American, and we have a North American point of view and perspective. And it's very difficult as filmmakers, when you really want to communicate something, sometimes you have to choose an angle. And sometimes it's easier to choose an angle that you know people are going to be able to relate to it, to understand it. And the most important message for us was the fact that we wanted to tell the story that the media is not telling. The media is not talking about what's happening in Haiti. All they're talking about is what is not happening. And for us, like everybody we talk to, it's like, really? There's something going on in Haiti? There's something, and every time I go back to Haiti, there's progress. There's things I see that are happening. So I get very discouraged, and I imagine the Haitian community even here must feel the same way. That, come on, there are things happening in Haiti. And so we felt that this was probably the best way to communicate it.
Hello. I would like to know what kind of things were being put in place in light of the construction. With the construction, what things are being done different so that so that another tragedy like this doesn't necessarily occur. Are the buildings being put in places that may be a little bit more resistant to the possible natural disasters, or just different things like that? I'm just kind of wondering.
Yeah.
Well, of course, we're not privy to all the details, but what we did learn in working with the partners that we did interview and research and so on, is that everyone is shocked at the level of devastation, including the government, including USAID, who put a lot of money into the reconstruction efforts, and who are one of the big contributors of some of the work, the rubble removal, and et cetera, with JPHRO. And so everyone is turning to that same question, which is, okay, let us not do one mistake, which is to rebuild something that, if an earthquake happens again, we would be seeing this again in 10 years. So
Yeah.
they are absolutely building. One of the things that they discovered, and just I guess this kind of plays to your point, was that one of the reasons there was so much devastation is because of poor concrete. The concrete was badly made, it was not properly mixed on a lot of the buildings that were up, and so with a little bit of water and a little bit of shaking, they crumble like salt, And so now when they build buildings, they have to have, these steel girders, and they have to mostly, so there's an educational aspect to the construction industry of saying, you must mix the cement in the right way for it to have the resistance that is required. So they're on it,
So on that, I know that all the organizations that are working to rebuild, like for instance, World Vision was involved in rebuilding, we're building to around 2,000 houses. JP's also involved in helping to build some houses, but also the Haitian community, the Haitian government is also has put laws in place to make sure that the building standards are increased. But anybody who knows Haiti and knows Haitians, they'll do with what they have. So if they have a piece of land and they have the ability to grab some things here and there to build a house, they'll do it. So there's a level of control that is possible, but there's also another level that is difficult.
All right. Hi, Dan. Thanks for an interesting movie. Just had one point in the movie, they were saying that it was important to hand over the reins, back to the Haitian people. And I read this one news analysis that they're saying that, not only it was, the collapse of all the buildings, it was actually the collapse of the government. Literally, the presidential palace collapsed, and there was just no government. There was, and what they're saying, one of the problems is that with all these NGOs, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people are on the ground, but they've set up kind of like a parallel government in terms of, policing to, law and order, to all these different things. And what's happening is that really needs to be given back, because these NGOs are kind of running things on the ground, and I'm just wondering, is that, how is the political situation? Is it coming back? Is it, that was my impression, that it's just the government collapsed, quite literally, like the buildings just fell down. It was just, who was running the country?
You raised so many important points. First of all, you point out astutely that it wasn't just an earthquake where there was physical devastation of buildings. Much of the senior brass of the current government was in that building that collapsed. The UN, who was of course administering and managing relief efforts and all kinds of construction projects, they were decapitated. Their 20% top staff were all also killed in the earthquake, and so there was a leadership vacuum for months, and that leadership vacuum happened at a time where there was already political instability, and there was an election coming, and there was a tremendous vying for power between old and new school political factions. Not that far back, there was tremendous civil unrest and bordering on civil war. So Haiti was just kind of pulling away from probably its hardest time, and then this. So who was in charge? Who's on first? Should it be the outside money that's coming in and trying to do stuff quickly and get out? Certainly not, because they don't have a long-term vision. Was it the Haitian government? Well, if you remember, the news of the first few days, the president at the time, Préval, was walking around like he was in shock, and he was no leader. For a time, there was a real sense of, my goodness, how are they going to take a step forward? But then, here we are, almost 3 years later. The government that is currently in place has stuck, has done incredible things, free education for kids. There's a lot of political pulling of the cover still going on today, and it's not easy for any decisions to get made, and for the key decisions to get made, for instance, the land tenure that was brought up, those are critical for investment to come into play. But I think that even the NGOs, even the World Visions of this world, and JPHRO, in conversations I've had with Sean and with their team, they would very much like to give the control of these institutions and to these mechanisms into the hands of Haitians, and people who are running, at the local level, and they're doing that. Even JPHRO now, the gentleman who is the director there, he's no longer the director. He's now in the U.S. and it's a Haitian who's running it. And so, there is a plan for that to take place, but there's been a lot of frustration historically that the money coming from outside wasn't necessarily always smart money, and so I think that's the frustration that we still have a little bit.
And if I can just add something, all these organizations, these NGOs that we see as actually higher, 99% are Haitian. Okay, JP is 98% Haitian. So yeah, it looks like, the money is coming from the outside, but the money is being invested in the Haitian community so that it's administered by the Haitians and spent by Haitians. In terms of the police, there is a police force that is growing, that they've been trained, and there is, I think, still a need to train more. But when I go to Haiti, I see Haitian policemen. I don't see white policemen.
Also, just to cap that point, that at the time when we were making this film, you, I'm sure, all remember the cholera epidemic. And it's a documented fact at this point that cholera epidemic was, in fact, brought into the country by United Nations troops who came from elsewhere. And so taking ownership of that huge misstep and the impact that it had on Haitians and the distrust that it created, it compounded an already difficult situation. And the reason we didn't focus on that in the film, when we were going there and trying to tell this story, I was burning with rage about this story because it was just breaking as we were filming. And I felt like really taking that and putting it right at the center of the film and making this one of those sort of fist in the air movies, you know? And then eventually, as we talked about it and as we thought about, okay, what would the impact of that be exactly? It became more and more clear to us that it would be destructive to what our end goal was, which was to try to project an idea of future hope and a sense of stability and a sense that there is good stuff getting done and that's where the focus needs to be if this message is going to have any value. Because, you know, we work in film and I work in film distribution a lot, and, you know, those, we aren't going to take it anymore movies. The press likes them, but they're destructive. They're destructive unless they're really bringing forward something concrete that is useful to moving the ball forward. And I felt that at this point that the destruction had been done, and we needed to focus elsewhere if we wanted to sort of have a story that could stand.
Anyone else?
Hi.
Hi. It's more of a personal question. How did you find that? Did you find that making this film and actually being there changed your lives, changed the way you see the world? You know, do you find that you're different now because of it?
Well, if I can answer, because for me it was a healing process making this film, because the first time I was down, I was working with World Vision. I went down with Dave Toyson, with the president of World Vision Canada, because we had lost contact with the whole staff of 300 people of Haitians that were running World Vision in the country. And he asked me down because I speak French and I understand Creole. And I was the director of Quebec at the time. And when I went down, I have to say that it took me about 6 months to a year to recover from what I had seen. And I felt still wounded, and I think probably more than I mean, it's hard to put it into words, like when you see that kind of tragedy, even for a professional who goes down and you know what you have to do and you do it, but when you come back home in the comfort of your home, all of a sudden you realize, like, wow, this is too much. I don't want to be here. Let me sleep on the floor, you know, and that's the kind of feeling. So making this film for me was a way to go back and shed a light, a different light, and look at things in a positive light of saying there is hope, even in the deepest of tragedies. When you think that there, I mean, I remember giving interviews, being in Haiti and giving interviews 5 days after the quake and telling the radio or television stations here in Quebec, I think that, you know, it'll take 10 years just to get back to where Haiti was before the quake. Just that will take 10 years. That was my impression. And when Sean Penn says he went up on the helicopter and then he saw the depth of the devastation, he was struck. And that's the feeling you had. And so, you know, to make this film and then see the progress, for me, was healing.
Thank you.
There was also a Clinton-Bush reconstruction, something or other. What's the status of that? Are they still managing?
They've actually transferred that over to the Haitians. The Clinton Initiative has been transferred to it's a Haitian-led group now.
Well,
Anyone else?
we want to thank you all for coming. We're really pleased to have the opportunity to present it here in Montreal. I know Georges Larac was planning to come here today. He was in the marathon and he hurt himself, so he had to go to the hospital instead of coming. Perhaps his mother is here. I was told that perhaps some of his family. Yes, she is. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
And as far as you know, the Haitian members of the community here, we really are glad that you joined us tonight. I love to hear the people who understand Creole smirk and laugh at the moments in the film before the subtitles say what it is, you know. So it's always very funny. We had that, you know, when we were presenting the film in Bahamas, because there's a good Haitian diaspora in the Bahamas. And for them it was like, you know, also they were really enjoying that. So thank you again for coming out.
Thank you. They're not leaving right away, so they're gonna be in front. So if some other people have some personal questions, they will be glad to answer just in front of the backdrop. So you can go and join them over there. And we'll be waiting for you Tuesday at Cinematheque for the commemoration of Martin Luther King, and back here, and then at Cinema Imperial. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.